Hey guys, and welcome back to the JP Merchwood ship as I try and boot up the power. While I've been waiting for the power to come back on, I managed to intercept a strange signal from Earth, and just so happened to be, it was a signal that was transmitting Alien Romulus, completely legally. So I managed to watch the movie today, and I want to give you my thoughts on it. As most of you know who are coming to my channel, you can see by the mere surroundings of this channel that I exist in, that I'm a big Alien fan. Obviously there's a lot of Jurassic content on this channel, but Alien is up there with Jurassic as one of my favorite IPs, my favorite franchises of all time. And I can prove this all time because I managed to find in my archives this collection of papers from when I was in year 3, which would have been how old would I have been? It would have been like 98? No, 97. So I would have been 8 or 9, okay? But for example, look at this. It says Alien Free at the top, and this was something I did at school, and it's like a collection of pictures. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well, but it's like a collection of pictures of my obsession with Alien. I mean, that's just the scene from Alien Free. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's just like, you know, I definitely had the infamous Alien Free shot on my mind. I mean, look at that thing. It looks just like the poster next to it. I won't go through all of it, but I love this one. It's 2 aliens. One says dad, one says mum, and the baby is the face hugger. But anyway, found that the other day. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, so I've been a fan for a very long time, and so when I heard Alien Romulus was coming out, obviously I was very excited. I was cautiously optimistic though, because since the Fox merger at Disney, as some of you who are subscribed to the Terradome will know, that I'm not a massive fan of Disney's practices when it comes to big franchise IP, so I was a bit nervous that they were going to get the Alien IP after Ridley Scott's Prometheus and Covenant, which I enjoyed greatly, and so I was a bit nervous what they were going to do. I was worried that if they were going to retcon out those films, because they got a lot of negative feedback from audiences. People didn't really like the direction. I say people, I mean like a lot of people didn't. There was loads of people who did like him, like both those movies, myself included. So anyway, Alien Romulus is on the cards, and I was a bit nervous, and I at first I wasn't really like, you know, excited to see it, and then you know, as time goes on, I'm like, well, actually, when I started to hear it was going to be set in between Alien and Aliens, I started to get like, okay, well, maybe this could be interesting. And then I saw the first trailer, and as some of you know on this channel, you know, my reaction to that trailer was, you know, like, yeah, it looks like Alien. You know, there's some exciting scenes, but it just looks like standard Alien fare. Well, I can say today that I loved this movie. This movie was awesome, and you know, there are some things I don't like about the film. There are actually 6 things. I've got them listed, which I will discuss in a minute, but I made a list after coming out of watching the film from the, you know, the monitoring room. You know, it's got a big screen and everything, loads of seats. It's like kind of like a cinema. But yeah, so I've listed them. It's a short list, but we'll get into those negatives in a minute. But you know, what I loved about this movie was, I've seen some people online talk about how it's kind of like a fan film with a big budget, and I can kind of see that. Well, obviously with some lines of dialogue, I can definitely see that. But it sticks true to the world building and the lore, and you know, I'm gonna go into major spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the film, stay away from this point on in the video. But I mean, it's gonna be in the title and the thumbnail of this video to stay away. But I'm so happy this film does not retcon Prometheus, does not retcon Covenant. If anything, it doubles down on those 2 movies, and I'm so thankful for that. And obviously Ridley Scott produced the movie, so he's not going to produce a movie that undoes his own work just from, you know, 2017 or whatever. But my favourite aspect of this film, just right off the bat, is the fact that it builds upon what those films set up and explains it a bit more, I think, in a clearer view for people out there who might have been a bit skeptical about what those films were setting up in terms of the sort of aliens DNA and what you can do with it and stuff. So I was very happy that they addressed it in such a huge way. Loved the ship designs, the characters, the music was phenomenal, the effects are great. There's a couple of practical shots in the movie that were a bit like, the face huggers. I was like, yeah, it looks practical. But then when you watch the older movies, it's kind of the same thing. And I kind of like this modern way of going, yeah, we're just going to shoot practical, and if it looks a bit naff, it looks a bit naff, doesn't it? And it's like, this kind of carefree approach more to effects than making sure all is fine-tuned and everything, which you often get with CGI, and then they can overdo it with CGI to the point where creatures don't look real and they look fake anyway. So as long as I'm sold on the story and the characters and we're going along with what's happening on screen, the effects are neither here nor there for me, because like one of my favourite films of all time is old Alien 3, and that has a poorly composited rod puppet in it, and I don't care about that. I think it adds a bit of a charm to the movie. But anyway, I could go into all of the like nitty gritty details of what I loved about this film, and I'm sure I will over the course of future videos on this channel. I'll go into what I loved about it. But right off the bat, the aliens are great in this film. I was down with the story. I thought the story was really good. And yeah, I just love that it connected to the rest of the lore pretty perfectly, in my view. Aside from one of my gripes, just one, which I'll get onto in a few seconds. But yes, the third act of this movie, the fourth act, should I say, because not many people know this, but I believe the Alien franchise with Alien in 1979 was actually the first movie to have a fourth act. Have the villain dead, and then oh no, they're back for another mini scene right at the end, and the Alien films always do that as a tradition, and so they did that in this one, and it was Alien Resurrection again, in a way, but it was a recontextualized version of the end of Alien Resurrection. And as people know who know me on this channel, Alien Resurrection, I find the movie to be fun. I don't think it's a good Alien movie. I think it's a shit Alien movie, if I'm honest. I think it's a crap Alien film, but a fun 90s schlock fest, like action horror film. But this, what Alien Romulus did with redoing kind of what the end of Resurrection had with the newborn, kind of, but redoing it with this kind of elongated engineer baby alien thing. I loved it. I thought it was so creepy. There's this shot of it stood in the corridor when I believe the android Andy turns around and sees it, and you just see it hunched over in the corridor, and it's got the sort of an engineer's face because they've like taken the DNA from the aliens and broken it down. The androids did, and the scientist on this space station. And anyway, they got the engineer. It's got an engineer's face from Prometheus, and it's like a newborn engineer, and creepy, and not played for stupid cat meowing noises and a stupid wibbly nose and Ripley hugging it, and no, none of that crap. It was like genuinely scary. Like it was something like I would not want to meet that thing. Let alone the xenomorphs, but I wouldn't want to meet that thing because it was just genuinely haunting to look at. But yeah, I was not expecting the Alien Resurrection to get any nods in this film. It plays homage to Alien and Aliens, but it also did Alien 3. It did the whole spectrum of the franchise. It was like a love letter to every film in the franchise so far. Maybe not Alien versus Predator and AVPR. Oh, maybe with the pregnant lady. But anyway, but I was not expecting the fourth act to go down the way it did, and I was invested. I was like, I sat forward in my seat to like look at the screen. I was like, this is getting good, like getting really creepy. And that's all, like I said, built upon what Covenant and Prometheus set up. So as someone who absolutely loves those movies, I was like, yeah, this is great. This is like, it's not the third in the trilogy necessarily because it doesn't follow David, but it's they've undone David's work basically, and it has a slight continuation from that, and so I was great, good. That's what we like. Anyway, I'm gonna get into my negatives now. I was hoping to keep this video under 10 minutes, but we're obviously going over that. So my negatives, here they are for you. Okay, so number one, this is my biggest gripe with this film, and it's a big no-no with sequels. None of the other Alien films, as far as I know, have done this. So the Predator films do this all the time, and that's kind of their tradition. But the Alien films have never really done this, and it annoyed the hell out of me that they did this. The repeated lines of dialogue from other movies, and obviously there are going to be many people out there who probably say the same thing. They just straight up just say lines from the first and second movies, and at one point, I think it was the android said, "I prefer the term artificial person myself," and I was like, okay, I see what you've done there. I'm going to let it go because he's an android, and that's probably a standard android response to being called, whatever slur, the equivalent slur to an android is. And so I was like, I'll let that slide. But then when we get to the moment where the same android shoots the sort of main alien that's been hunting the characters through the film, and he's protecting this other character, his sister, and he says like, "Get away from her," shoots it in the head a bit more, and then goes, "You bitch," and I'm like, oh, like they didn't set up anywhere in the movie people calling him a bitch or like, well, as far as I know, I've only seen it once. Maybe they did, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but they didn't, like, as far as I know, set up, him using the word bitch or having that kind of inclination in his personality. So it just fell completely flat, and it's like, and then if you're watching these films in order, if Aliens is the next one, then like Ripley saying it is just going to sound weird now in the continuity of these movies. So it just really gripes me when they do it. I do not like it. That's one of the things about the Alien franchise I really enjoyed, was every film didn't repeat lines of dialogue. They recontextualized scenes from other films. You go on the same sort of journey, yes, but the lines of dialogue were pretty much different. Unless I'm forgetting one, you'll have to leave a comment down below to let me know if I've missed one. But this one, it does it like 3 or 4 times, and every time it does it, it's like, oh, for God's sake, like, shut up, like, stop it. He could have just said, "Get away from her," and you'd be like, okay, I see what you're doing, but you didn't say "you bitch," so okay, I'll let it slide. That could have worked, but they had to go the whole hog, didn't they? Yeah, it was like every time it happened, I was like, don't do it, and then they go and bloody do it. On that note, this is a nitpick. This is a tiny nitpick, but it's in a similar sort of vein. It's not as bad, but it was just a little bit distracting. There's a scene at the beginning of the movie where 2 characters are talking around a table, like right at the beginning, and on the table in between them is a dipping bird, like in the first film, and what's seen in Prometheus as well. And I was like, okay, I kind of get the sort of in-universe joke that there's these dipping birds everywhere, but I was like, it was dipping away right in the middle of these 2 characters. It was so distracting. I was like, okay, it's right there, it's dipping away. I'm trying to listen to what they're saying, and all I'm thinking is there's that stupid bird from the first film, and it's like, how many of those dipping birds are around in the Alien universe? Like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, total nitpick, but I was like, just take that dipping bird off the bloody table. You could have had it somewhere else, somewhere ages away. So I feel like this is not necessarily a negative in a way, but I felt like there could have been a couple of extra crew members on board this ship who get killed off on the journey, because whilst there were lots of deaths in the movie with this small group of characters, pretty much everyone gets wiped out except for like 2 characters. I think, how many characters were there? It was like, I think maybe 7. Was it like the same number as the first film, something like that? But like I feel like they could have had a couple more, because there's a few moments where they're going into like an alien hive at one point, and you're like, okay. And I know there's a character that dies in the alien hive, but it would have been cool to have a little bit more of that. A couple of other people get face hugged or something. It just felt like there was two people missing from the movie who could have been there just purely to be killed and add an extra dash of gore to the movie. Because I kept hearing before going in, people saying, oh, it's gory, like, oh, it's all this, that, and it's like, yeah, it was, but it wasn't anything like crazy, like crazy. Yeah. The end scene, that engineer baby elongated thing, whatever it was, at the end of the movie, I don't think it has a name yet. Xenomorph, I should call it, because that's what it was. I feel like that the design of that thing, like I said, was super creepy. But there's this like shot, it was a bit jarring for me, like where they show it stood up in the cargo hold, and the light flashes on it, and you get a good view of its whole body. And I kind of felt its design was, its top half was chilling. Its bottom half was, I felt like it was too big, too long. It wasn't that it was too long, but it was too thick. Like, it had too thick legs, and it reminded me too much of the Newborn. And I kind of feel like they could have had like a really interesting lower half to this thing to make it a bit more creepy. So yeah, I was like, slight dig at the design of that thing from the lower half down. Nitpick again, like it's fine as it is really, but it's like that's the negative I came out with. And then the other one is, huge spoiler in the movie, is they find the top half of an android, a science officer android called Rook, and if you play chess, and then see the character motivation, that'll give you some sense of what his motivation is. As soon as you see the name, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. Who is basically another model who's Ash. So it's another Ash in the movie, and they've like used his likeness, and they've kind of deep fake CGI'd Ian Holmes' face on this thing. And he, like I said, he's cut in half, so he's all like mangled up, and his like jaw here is messed up. Now I did like him. I did like him in the movie. I did like his motivation. I did like everything he added to the movie. I did kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, the weird CGI face of it was unnerving to look at when he's like this half a body on a table jerking around. However, I kind of feel like they could have just gone with a different android altogether. It could have been interesting had it been another android of Andy, who had two Andys, but then maybe people think it was a little bit like Walter or David, or it could have been a Walter or not David him. Well, it could have been David himself. That would have been really cool. But it could have been Walter. We could have got a cameo from Michael Fassbender as this character back. Would have been really cool. Ian Holmes, Ash or Rook, I don't mind it. Actually, it worked quite well. But I feel like it could have been someone else to avoid the weird face thing. Or what could have been better is just mess his face up more. Like, actually have it so he's got like his whole, like Bishop in Alien 3. So they used a full animatronic in Alien 3 for the character of Bishop, and he's all messed up, and then they lip synced it to audio. And they could have done something like that. They could have had, because then it would have looked unnerving to see this like working android that looks a little bit like Ian Holm but like messed up. Could have sold that effect a bit more. But like I said, I was watching it, and I'm not a fan of like these, in like Rogue One when they do Princess Leia or wherever his face is. I can't remember his name now. Peter Cushing's character. But like I don't really like that. But for some reason, there were moments in this where I didn't mind it. Actually, I say that. Tell a lie. Reverse. I'm talking out my ass here. I do like it in Tron Legacy with Clue. With not at the beginning of the film with Jeff Bridges when he turns around to his son in the light, and you're like, that looks off. It hasn't aged well. But when it's Clue, it works in the context of the story because he's meant to be a computer program who's a copy of Flynn. That's the only one I actually really like. This one I actually do like as well because I think it's unnerving to look at it and see that it looks like Ash and it's kind of glitchy, but I just think like they could have messed his face up more to sell the effect just a little bit better. I have one of his eyes just facing off, like it's like his eye's broken, so he's not looking both eyes at you, because he had like a perfectly clean face and it looked a bit off at times. But like I said, on one hand it was uncanny and it kind of worked because you're like, ugh, that half a robot looks messed up and weird, and on the other half you're like, the effect doesn't look that great. But yes, so I said I had 6 negatives. There was one I'm forgetting. I'm sure I'm going to remember it as soon as I click stop on this. But yeah, so Alien Romulus, 2 thumbs up from me. I enjoyed it. Good film. I'm still skeptical what Disney will do, but mainly because they had those bloody lines of dialogue that was just ripped straight from Alien and Aliens. It's like, can't you just... Those lines of dialogue are so iconic. It's like, just to repeat them, it's just hollow, it's cheap, it's cringy. And also it's like, write your own damn iconic lines. Write something in there that it becomes its own. Because, like, get away from her, you bitch, from Aliens wasn't an iconic line before Aliens. Aliens made it an iconic line, and Alien Romulus had the perfect opportunity to add in loads of other like moments in those moments to make lines of dialogue iconic, but they chose to just repeat iconic lines of dialogue. But anyway, enough about the negatives. Very good movie, very good, epic, and space shots were really cool as well. There was lots of shots of like the ships, the cargo ship, like flying around the space station. It just looked great around the rings of this planet, and I can't wait to watch it again and dive into all the sort of nitty-gritty background details and maybe catch other details that I might have missed that connect it to the previous films. So yeah, anyway, there's my thoughts on Alien Romulus. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the near future. And what the... There's a little spider on my microphone. Look at that, would you?